nonetheless.
Wall.
Nice turnaround though, good call on the wall stand. First blood to Targamas. Kalista got the barrier and survived. Flash on forwards, it doesn't work.
So there's no flash.
Yes, if it's coming. I'm not sure. The TP or the vent is.
Leave.
No, fast play.
Yeah, one shot. Sure, nice.
Very good. Fight.
I'm pushing.
Xayah is 1 HP. Give me space. Just look around. I'm ulting it. Yeah, go. He's gonna flash.
I play T2.
Yeah, play T2 and we get attack, okay?
And we're back in the coaching room, this time with assistant coach Apples from Karmine Corp. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Second time you face off against KOI. Last time it went in your favor. How do you rate their evolution, especially given the one-sided series we saw from them yesterday?
We weren't really sure how well they're gonna do against BDS. BDS and KOI were the teams that were like competing for the 4th place, in my opinion. While people say that we are top 3, but I was really impressed with them yesterday. And we played them the most this year, right? Yeah. We had the show match, we already played the best of 1, but we didn't scrim them much. But seeing them play on stage, I think Jojo got on the same page with the team. They are very good at playing together, kind of the same way as last year, but you can see that Jojo is getting really involved in it. So they're playing good, they're improving.
And now looking at the game, we are doing this interview at 10 minutes into game 1. The early game went in your favor. You cannot give advice to your players, but how do you expect the rest of the game to go? How do they keep on that lead?
Well, I'm gonna say they just need to do what we've been working on for the last 2 weeks. One thing was early game, they did great. Thank you, KOI. But the next thing is just dragons. We need to make sure that we secure the dragons, that we are on the objective on time, and that should be a clean game.
All right, hopefully it goes well for you guys. Best of luck. Thank you so much. Ginny, over to you.
Thank you so much, Laure and Apples as well, for the valuable insight. You know, Odo, he said early game and objectives. It felt like that's literally what they did anyway.
It was exactly what happened. They managed to get an early game lead, but then going into mid game, I felt like their neutral objective setup was impeccable. I feel like even though sometimes they were not there first, given the way their comp was working, they were always managing to find picks and find space. And this game wasn't really like skirmish heavy or bloody in that sense, but just finding great picks at every single neutral objective.
Yeah, and the early games as well, in terms of how well they have been played, like it allowed them to get these neutral objectives. But you, Jack, you're the iPad kid. You want to show us exactly what went right for them?
Yeah, I got a little clip here. Hopefully I can pull it up. Because the thing is, a lot of people have been saying, Jackspectra, Caliste isn't the GOAT. He doesn't have that much aura.
Who are they?
Shh. Watch the magician. Can you help me? I'm not getting it to work.
There you go. Here it comes.
My GOAT.
And
there we
right
go.
Here. There we
so,
go.
Okay.
As you can see here, this is the 2v2 bot lane. And I just want to highlight mostly all about Caliste's beautiful, if I can get the pen here, beautiful clicks, because they are a thing to watch, ladies and gentlemen. So first, he hits the Q onto Braum here. Very nice. And you can see they're just kind of playing the 2v2 slow. He hits the W, ease forward, and instantly clicks back. Nice. And then Braum uses W, and enemy bot lane now thinks, okay, Ezreal's no E, so this is our turn to fight. They get the Q onto Poppy. Poppy kites back nicely here, so Kai'Sa doesn't get the passive proc. And then you can see here, Kalista instantly flashes back because he's getting the Braum passive stacks and he doesn't want to get stunned. And then here is where the spacing madness goes into play. Because you now see he opens his attack speed, auto attack range, and he sees he can auto attack Kai'Sa, does one auto, runs out of range, and then he W's, beautiful sidestep here on the Braum Q, clicks up here, beautiful. And this is where the spacing madness really gets into play. You see here that he gets autoed by the Kai'Sa, and then he tanks one more auto. He doesn't barrier this auto, because Caliste does math. He knows this auto can't kill. 6 HP, then he barriers the next auto, clicks back out of range. So Supa now actually has to flash to get the last auto attack, but at that point, the barrier is still ticking. So he's a little bit lucky. He should have died, but still, crazy good play by the K-Corp bot lane here, and that just kind of cements the whole game.
And that sets them up for success as well throughout the rest of the game.
Exactly. It's not really like Caliste is the main benefactor from this crazy play in the ball lane, but I feel like Targamas getting these kills just opens us up for success. Targamas has been someone that has been always heavily criticized, and I feel like this whole split has been quite good by him. I feel like he's been rising. You know, his stats have been looking great, but this game I feel like he has been magnificent. I feel like in all of these neutral setups, every single thing that they've been cooking together with the team, he has been the main part of pretty much every single kill, and the Poppy pick was just great.
Yeah, he's been popping off, and especially like just in the early game, for me it was similar to the game from Mickix, where he just the Poppy did so much from Mickix, from Mickey X.
Okay, yeah.
But he never fell off. You know, he just kept the momentum going, and it was beautiful to see from Targamas. And in general, this glow up from Targamas this year has been very beautiful.
It's allowed KC to stay in the driver's seat, which is what they needed to do. And we heard it from Apples as well in the interview, where he said communication and making sure that when these neutral objectives are on the map, that's what you're fighting for. It feels like KC has really gotten it down under lock and key against a team like MKOI, which we had a couple of questions about because we weren't too sure after how it went last time.
Definitely. Although K-Corp had, every single win condition they needed, I would like for MKOI to revisit a little bit, because one of the main things that they needed to do coming into this series is enable Alvaro and Elyoya. And I think the Braum pick with the Vi was a little bit of a disconnect. I felt like they were lacking a little bit of, face check power, in the sense where even if you find someone, you cannot really pull the trigger because there's just not enough people that can pull the trigger. So I would really want them going into this game 2 and maybe, for throughout the series, if there's going to be a game 3, to revisit what makes them, strong. What's their main identity? Their main identity has always been just, Alvaro and Elyoya roaming together, doing a lot of wonderful things for the team. But they need a little bit more power picks, or picks that synergize at least good together between the support and the jungle.
Yeah, and they go for that blue side as well. And we already touched upon earlier what KC needs to do to win. So I feel like they've hit those points. We've seen it. They've gotten it under the back. But want to bring this back to MKOI when it comes to their draft, when it comes to their pick potential, when it comes to some of the champions that we want to see them play, now that they have that blue side as well.
I mean, for me, it's simple, right? I think the two players that KOI have that can make a difference is Myrwn and Alvaro, and you put them on Cassante Braum. Those are not going to carry.
That's quite sad, yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So I think if we get Alvaro on a high agency engage support and Myrwn on some spicy top counter pick.
Hard on blue side, but
hard
still.
On blue side, but still.
he can make it happen. But again,
what would be a spicy pick then here?
Warwick. No.
no Warwick.
Yeah, I haven't seen him do that. Maybe a little range top laner, but...
Fiddlesticks?
That would be very crazy.
That one was nice, but... something a little bit unorthodox, but I feel like now on blue side it's a little bit difficult. I wouldn't really look at him so much, but definitely probably on Alvaro. I feel like he really needs now with maybe the, what was it, Rel? No, Poppy. I feel like Rel is still open. There's going to be Nautilus, there's going to be Alistar, just any sort of hard CC engage support where he can, find the agency that he wants and that he usually thrives in the game.
Well, we're going to find out after the break because we're going to be back with more Karmine Corp going up against MKOI. So make sure you stick around to see whether or not we're going to be getting a spicy pick in the top lane.
Welcome back to the LEC. We are the kindred of casters and have merged together to form the perfect casting being, and we're back here for Game 2 with Movistar KOI versus Karmine Corp. It's been a real shock to see such a blowout Game 1 when it felt like it should have been a bit closer, but that bot lane differential really felt like it was way too much.
Quick note, actually, I went looking up Supa's damage percentage in playoffs so far. He's 30% of the team's damage in the 2 wins they had before this, and having him behind like that when he's been pretty core to how they've been winning, at least in playoffs, pretty devastating.
So just to recap what the desk was saying, one of the biggest points that they were talking about was actually, okay, who can change the game here from Movistar KOI? And I think one of the big ones they highlighted was what's happening in the draft around this top lane, with Fearless coming in, of course, with champions picks last game unavailable to either team. You see them in the middle of your screen. Does this unlock something similar to the Karma talk you saw from yesterday with Movistar KOI versus BDS?
And Elyoya and Alvaro were a little absent that game for various reasons. Felt like the whole team didn't really get to make as many plays. There was some good moments where they were setting up vision and stuff, but it didn't lead to all that much. You heard it from the desk. They're one of those players with a little bit more agency, a little bit more of a go button, and that'll be the angle here. So we're getting some bans coming through for this second game.
And Movistar KOI have chosen blue side. They have Horn to note that as well. It feels like that has been on a more powerful side of the two. Skarner banned away on that red side by Karmine Corp. Are they going to ban away something like, of course, the Kalista or the Rumble? Both of them are up right now. Feels like everyone is playing them very powerfully right now. Of course, Myrwn, of course, we've normally seen him on the Ambassador and the Cassante. Both of them are away now, so he'll be going towards some more secondary champions. For this split, we know he plays a lot of champions. Nice to see him dip into them.
Cork is the last ban, triple AD carry bans against Caliste, and if they don't ban the Kalista here, you have to imagine it's a first pick for MKOI. Supa had an insane game on it just the other day.
Especially with all of these, this is a lot of bot lane bans.
And then plus the 2 from last game,
Taking a while on this one. I mean, Kalista, obvious ban here, surely.
Maybe would be. I mean, do you feel like you got an answer? We have seen people try and draft into it. Things like Ashe Seraphine's been done around the world, so maybe you feel like you can do it. They ban the Rel. Kalista's up. MKOI, are you going to take the gauntlet? That's not a Kalista being hovered.
Azir was banned away last game too. Is it valued more than both of these teams were so good? That early game AD carry in that last day of games against both of their opponents. It's the Azir first pick for Jojopyun. He also looked very comfortable yesterday on this pick. He really did help push up the late game damage. But I'm very surprised to see that Kalista passed over when both these teams were so impactful with it yesterday.
Maybe they're just feeling a little bit nervous into their opposite numbers. Both these bot lanes have been very, very good at snowballing. You'd imagine they'd be happy to do it.
Well, unless both teams have a Kalista.
Yeah, maybe they know something we don't.
Maybe they know something we don't.
Surely not. There we go. It's locked in. Kalista on Kalista.
That topical. Both these teams have said very, very powerful on that one. Question is, what else do you want to lock in? You know the mid lane matchup. Is there a top lane? You could go for something like Jayce for Canna. He's been very, very impactful on that one with the Cassante and then Besta down. Feels like a lot of like your first string laning top laners are off the table. That could potentially be something thought about.
It's often been junglers picked red too as well. We see a lot of things like the Wukong being up and available might be pretty strong here, can be really annoying to deal with, but it's Viktor, which has been very, very potent over here in the LEC. So Xayah nearly carried the game yesterday on Vitality, couldn't quite pull it off despite some insane ultimates in the later stages, alongside that Sivir from Kazi.
So it's Mage versus Mage in the mid lane. Movistar KOI, what do they want to do? Do you want to lock in AD carries before they get taken out in the second round? They lock in Xayah. Is it Xayah Rakan? I mean, it's a powerful historical duo. The lovers reunite just after Valentine's Day. Ain't that appropriate? But still, very dangerous going up against the Calista. Could go for the Renata on 3 if you want here, and because the Renata can handshake the Rakan out of that W, potentially very strong for the lane. And this actually, because of that laning worry, maybe Movistar KOI just say, oh, lane swap, don't want to deal with it.
Get out of it, yeah. I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of champions that work well with the Kalista. It will be that Renata, which is an old school pairing at this point. You know what feels really good? An extra life to stick more spears in people.
I think it's it's not just old school. It's just the every school at this point.
It's been the entire history of this champion.
Kalista 101. Let's pick Renata alongside it. That sounds pretty good to me. So we have jungle and top lane left to pick for both sides. Picks which really stand out. I do think that Jayce, even if it goes towards a Bruiser variant, feels really good just in terms of the laning phase from both of these players right now. Say that Myrwn's only actually played the one game, but Canna's played a little bit more of that one. So Juani taken away from Elyoya.
Wukong up and available is another one of those big engage options. The Maokai, of course, was used last game. We've already downed the Vi as well, which has obviously been 2 of our bigger engaged jungle options. Shin's out, the current ban from Movistar KOI, and there are some of those earlier AD skirmishing junglers still up and available, which are also often prevalent in this kind of meta.
I suppose when you've got 2 lower range AD carries and 2 mages without any regen, and they catch something, especially with the squishes support, something like Nidalee can go up in prio, but there's not really that much CC. Just looking at the champion pools of both of these, because some of the more convenient engaged champions already gone. The Maokai, Fearless banned, can't play that in this one. The Ivern being banned away as well, which would have been really nice with the double attack speed carries from Elyoya. That does make some sense. He hadn't played a game of it, but if you're looking at the draft and think, what else could they pick behind the curtain?
And he has historically played it, of course, and it is a champion that if you just don't know how to play against it, get rid of it, because it plays so unlike every other champion in the game. We've seen a few teams try to manage an Ivern in the past and really regret it. Last ban now from Movistar KOI. They're going to continue to pinch that jungle pool. They get rid of the Pantheon, which has been very popular over here in Europe and has definitely seen a fair amount of prevalence across a few different roles.
So I presume you jungle on 4 here, counter pick top lane just in case Myrwn's got something spicy cooked up. No sense giving Myrwn a better angle to dip deeper into that champion pool.
Okay, so imagining jungler on 4 here, I tend to agree. Red 5 as a counter pick. Often left to top laners where and when you can. The Wukong, the last, I think, top-tier jungler I can see off the top of my head from the AD engaged option. There you go. We'll be locked in for Yike.
A little bit dangerous into the Xayah because you have to go melee range into Xayah feathers, but still you can get that knock and get a huge amount of damage onto that champion before they get to anything else.
Top again.
I actually quite like the Karma here. It helps you be more mobile on the Xayah, and if there is anything in terms of big engages, it just helps with the Rakan and the Karma saving a carry. Makes it much harder to get towards those big damage threats in the late game as Karmine Corp diving onto them.
And Myrwn had a fantastic game on the other day.
Some absolutely
monstrous mantra Qs at the Baron to really earn them the damage needed to win some of those late game fights. I think a lock in alongside it. I saw the Kindred hover. Maybe they were listening to us, but there's some fun hovers here. See what they decide to lock in.
Very little front line. That's my worry right now. Very little front line against the Lee Sin. It can be a bruiser. It's popped up a little bit as we go into Fearless Draft, but what I look at here is a very difficult composition for Movistar KOI to play because they don't have something like really easy to play around the front line like a Cassante or a Sejuani or a Maokai, which can take a bit of damage and then dash out. It's quite hard to play around. You really need to be relying on the various shields you have.
And that just leaves Canna to last pick that Jayce you were talking about. And now you've got Wukong, you've got Jayce, you've got a very nasty skirmish and team fight comp here, especially if you can get the Kalista rolling things early.
Jayvic picked up for KC. Favorite combo of a musician called Bibinos, I hear. It's Karmine Corp. Look to seal out a 2-0 here if they could get themselves. Many names he goes by, but still, if this is a really lane dominant top laner, really helps you brawl around the place. I look at Karmine Corp's comp and I see a very dominant Kalista. I look at that Jayce that's strong in laning phase as well. I think that Movistar KOI would really like to get themselves a lane swap.
They will need to do that for Movistar KOI. The disengage isn't bad between the Xayah ult, between the Azir shuffle away, between Karma hitting that empowered E with the mantra, the kick away from Elyoya. Decent skirmishing as well if you can find those good flank angles, but I tend to agree there's a little bit more on the execution floor required.
As well, if you're here in the upper bracket of LEC Winter Playoffs of 2025, you better have a bit of that execution to rely on. Movistar KOI didn't really get to play last game. A ill-fated dive sealed game 1 pretty early on, it felt like. Let's see if they can start a little bit better against the blue wall. Game 2 to make it even.
Eyes on the likes of Elyoya and Alvaro. They are normally the catalysts to a lot of the action. The Movistar KOI like to get going early on a Lee Sin, on a Rakan. They certainly have the tools to do it, but there's the lights. Here's the camera. And let's bring on some action for Game 2 of Movistar KOI versus Karmine Corp. Thanks for the welcome there, announcer. We are on to the Rift here for Game 2. It didn't really felt like we had a game in the first time. It was solved very early on, as we kind of talked about already. Nothing super spicy on the runes there, I don't think.
No, not just yet. We'll see what happens to level 1. Nothing interesting happening just yet. I think this is a good time to talk about the evolution of Calista within the LEC, because when we were in regular season, I wasn't that impressed by a lot of the Kalistas in Europe. It really felt like, well, look at that, 5 losses. In playoffs so far, 3-0, of course, with only 1 game of the Kalista per series, really has started to level up. It is a difficult champion to play around because you have to play objectives well and you have to play the laning phase well. Both of these teams did that very well with the pick just yesterday. Kalista now has a chance to really use that wrecking ball in the bot lane to do some damage. And we can actually see, if you look on the minimap, yeah, that's Xayah going towards the top lane.
Get out of that lane.
Be a lane swap.
Of course, doesn't necessarily stop the Kalista getting fed. It just means it's done in a different way. You can try and dive and get value that way. Myrwn looking for a potential early roam into mid, but he was spotted out by a ward.
Yeah, in case you know this, they know Myrwn's here, and they know the lane swap is on. That is why Canna's just dropping off of the top lane turret. Some really important decisions need to be made around about now. Jayce is going to try and maybe snipe a couple of bits of farm with his Q. Targa, I love this from Elyoya, just making sure. Does he know the timing here? Does Targa see him just yet? I'm not sure if he saw. Elyoya skips the red buff. I think he was trying to just hop away from Targamas to try and make sure that he wasn't seen. I'm not exactly sure if he was.
Don't think he was. Targamas left, and Elyoya timed that near perfectly, especially now seeing the Renata leave. There will be no trading on that jungle, and especially early on. Sports coming in to mess with you as you're fighting a buff at the same time can really suck.
I think with, let's look at Canna here, who's going to try and get some XP before the wave comes in. The same potentially could have happened with Karma on the other side of the map, but Karma's actually going up towards the top lane. Instead, one of the big changes about lane swaps after MSI last year was the way that shared XP worked. Going towards your top laner towards your bot lane and sharing as 3 people gets you more percentage XP between all of you than it did well, this time a year ago. It means that it's much easier to get towards your level 2, then teleport to the other side of the map if you need to at this point. Myrwn's going to go pick himself potentially some tower gold, an extra wave. He's happy now. Need to see whether Canna is happy on the other side. Just a little bit behind in the XP compared to Myrwn.
Little note there as well from Canna. It started with the E, the acceleration gate, rather than anything like a shock blast to try and be able to run away and knock people away.
That was, tell you what that was. In the 1v1, that used to be Xayah's tech against Gnar.
Interesting.
Yeah, he used to really like doing that and kind of just spacing out. So maybe that's something which he's picked up from there. I didn't normally think that would happen in this current patch, because using that Q to snipe off some bit longer range CS can really help get your XP, but hey, it's working out okay for him right now. Really will need to check that XP as we go in though. Really important here that the lane swap also allowed Supa and Alvaro to survive the level 1 against this duo, but they do have to face up against the Kalista and the Renata in lane now, even in those early levels, which they've managed to avoid the most of.
It's not like this lane is going to necessarily be particularly fun early on, regardless of it avoiding the level 1. Calista and Renata, very, very potent for the first opening stages of the game.
Yeah. Is he going to hop over the wall?
Can certainly look to do that. We need to see some action from this Lee Sin early, you'd have to imagine. Elyoya, a notorious player of this champion, has put out some great numbers on it before when looking for a Sonic Wave.
Oh, you have to try. You have to try. I don't blame him from doing so. Canna will survive there, though. See that the Karma... And we didn't really get to see much of the Karma laning phase in the last series that they played, because that game really wasn't necessarily about that from Movistar KOI yesterday. But here, you can see it is starting to poke at the Jayce well.
And in fairness to it, we say, look, normally Rumble wins every lane he's into, aside from
Gallia. Yesterday, yes,
and the Karma managed it. Kind of went even in CS, came into teamfights and did a lot of value. Yeah. So if that feels like Myrwn saying, look, I think I've got another champion that can lane into the best of them, good news.
Super, did he walk? He's trying to hold the wave a little bit here, because you don't want to play in a long lane, especially against Kalista and Renata as a duo, because one of the real dangerous things is, even if you take down the first health bar of the Kalista, in a long lane, they'll keep hopping at you with the bailout HP, the lethal tempo falls fully stacked, and they'll manage to range you before you get back to that turret. This little wave control here, really important in the 2v2 to make sure that Supa and Alvaro can keep themselves accessing farm. They push it in after they see the Kalista backing off. They'll get themselves a free reset. They can get themselves a free back.
Supa starting with the Carl, whereas Caliste has gone back to buy out full Berserker Greaves, and Kalista loves Berserker Greaves. Plays with their passive so well. The more attack speed you have, the more move speed, you just hop further, you hop more, you do more spears. This is all good things.
I am really interested to see how this game plays out into our bigger fights a little later on. We highlighted this in draft. Neither team has fantastic frontline. Your frontline is not
conditional.
It's conditional, and it's not getting hit a lot of the time. It's, hey, I don't want to be here with the Karma, press the full team shield, get the heck out of there. Or it's trying to play around something like the Kalista ult onto the Renata. What that means is that if you misstep, you are punished very, very heavily. We have Grubs starting up in 30 seconds. They'll be spawning there. Movistar KOI moving in force towards the top side of the map, with Myrwn using that lane control to chunk out the Jayce.
Targamas will be here, but I don't know whether 2 people will survive this dive all that well against 4. Movistar KOI here with a lot of members. Here comes the dive. It'll be Alvaro going forward to the grand entrance, and immediately down into the bailout goes Targamas. Renata cannot save her business this time around.
Sadly, Zornite can't help. Man from Piltover, Canna goes down 0-1 and 0. Movistar KOI with that kill will get an easier access towards those Grubs. However, while all this is happening, Dragon being taken on the other side, some plates being taken down by Caliste as well. So even though there is an assist and some plates going towards Supa, I don't think Caliste is particularly unhappy with that.
Movistar KOI with an early lead, Movistar KOI with an early play, which we wanted to see
true.
from this draft, but also Vladi after last game, because they really struggled to get anything rolling. This feels a little bit more like the Movistar KOI we've come to know over the last few weeks here in the LEC. Elyoya will claim the grubs as well, so they'll trade in those objectives to boot. We have a look around as Yike looks to try and steal away some grubs. Not some grubs, some raptors, I apologize, but he's going to be spotted out doing this, and Jojo's coming on a roam, going to try and force out a flash or perhaps an ult. The cycle comes on down, shuffle back towards his team. Elyoya will hop forwards. Flash for a Dragon's Rage, and now Vladi's in danger too. Trying to run away. The shield from Targamas might be enough for turnaround. Arcane here to stay. Wonderful Storm.
A little bit too far there from Movistar KOI as Alvaro jumps forwards. I initially thought it was going to work out, but Targamas is there to save the day. Really is very high punishing game, this one, with so much mobility from unexpected places. Let's take stock of the early game. Movistar KOI obviously have themselves the gold lead. They do lose that dragon, but the 3 grubs will mean that if they get themselves good poke with the Karma or, you know, with the Xayah Rakan getting a good trade onto someone, I think with, well, 4 range... Okay, Rakan technically counts as a range champion. 4 range champions.
Does he
generous.
Really?
I mean, I actually can't remember.
Is it like a participation award range champion? Like, here you go, here's your gold star?
I do technically think he counts as a melee champion.
So does Thresh for range champions, you know? Does he count? Okay.
I'm trying to make it classes in session. But what it means is that when you have the 3 grubs and a good amount of poke, you can take down turrets very effectively if Karmine Corp slip up and eat too many skill shots. So they'll need to be quite wary of protecting their turrets.
I've seen a lot of Rakans running Demolish as part of the secondary runes as well
true,
lately, to try and get a bit of value out of that when your grubs and your lane swaps are happening. So keep an eye on that one as well. Caliste and Targamas coming down to fight over control wards. Vision, always a premier thing to be keeping an eye on in pro play. Nice little handshake there onto Alvaro, who did not enjoy the Rend combo after.
This game hasn't really been about the Kalista Renata just yet. The early game not netted them the laning lead, which is one of the strongest points of the Kalista, so we'll see what they can do around the Pokeball engage. You throw Renata right at them, see if you can get into a better angle, and of course the objective play, if you get to them first and use that Rend.
Yeah, it was Movistar KOI actually ended up getting a dive off with their bot lane rather than the other way around. At least you got an assist in there, and that's nice
Sam,
enough.
The reason that happened is because there was no one to dive on the side of the map.
That's very fair. I grant you that Myrwn had left. But the point still stands. Didn't happen. Caliste flashes out of the grand entrance. It's a big summoner down, and actually, you've got a singular gold in the lead for Caliste. That doesn't really count. Immediately it switches back over. And when we talk about Caliste, we want to see early leads on that champion, or it feels a lot rougher.
Sure. Does he know? Oh, that grab field's not going to quite catch him there. Yike just hanging off to the side. Jojo has himself some ability to get out safely if there were to be a player coming on through here. Safe push in. But yeah, this is exactly the kind of game I want to see between these 2 bot lanes, because they are even. And both these bot lanes have been bot lanes I've really enjoyed watching. I've really enjoyed watching Supa and Alvaro and Caliste and Targamas both make their way up to the LEC. And of course, within the case of Caliste and Targamas, reform an ERL duo that was so successful with Supa and Alvaro stay together on that note as well. Seeing them both here in upper bracket and playoffs, it's great to see them be this kind of this new generation coming up towards the LEC proper.
And I think it's kind of cool as well, because the various local regional fan bases were so in love and hyping these duos up before they came up. You know, back when Supa and Alvaro were down in the LVP, people were talking about how great they were going to be. They come up, and last year people were going, oh my days, all these rookies come in, are they really going to do that well? Make it to Worlds. That's pretty damn impressive. And then it's like, okay, Caliste, everyone's excited about it after a mere Masters. The French fans have been screaming about him for years, saying he's going to be the next great thing.
And he's
Can he live up?
Good.
And he's been pretty damn good. They have lived up to the hype, and how often is that not the case? And how go up against each other? It's nice to see an even game.
20 seconds until grubs spawn. Movistar KOI not on that side. Great damage from the Eclipse first on the Lee Sin.
Does a lot of work, and it is not going to be a standard Sky. You're absolutely right. It is the skirmishing early AD version. A little bit more squishy for sure, but the early damage is fantastic.
And I think particularly in a game without a real true tank, the Jayce might go tanky with a bit of HP. That we've seen the more bruiser side of things, right, rather than anything spare nowadays. Even then, Lee Sin feels really happy about that, because you can have your combo which can really change a fight, as opposed to kicking a Cassante into your team or something.
Got Dragon spawning in about 24 seconds. Second set of grubs is already up. And Elyoya in this bot side river hit a second Q on a Targamas partway through that skirmish. I wondered whether he'd follow it without Eclipsing, but decided against it. Are we going to see Movistar KOI try and set up around this dragon as Jojo went sliding forwards, takes a turret shot. Alvaro is there with a battle dance to make sure no further trades come through.
That was a solid gravity field, one of the most underrated pits of the Viktor's kit. It can be hard to use it on your own, but it can really help just with that micro slow. Okay, so Dragon not started from Movistar KOI. They go towards the Grubs instead. And as we said before, you know, you have a lot of poke. Your siege is pretty good with the Karma if you start grouping up later. Get themselves that first Grub. At least not the best securer of these. Gets one. Won't be able to rush down the other two before Karmine Corp stick their heads in and wonder if they have something to play around here.
Myrwn is here. So is Targamas and Yike, though. It looks like Movistar KOI say, look, that's the end of that one. Myrwn will try for the Q steal. Won't quite find it with the Soul Flare and will back away.
Oh, he's got a second one. There's no smite just this time. Does he have the Nah, he needs to collect a wave. Okay, 4-2 on the Grubs. So Karmine Corp deny Grubageddon from Movistar KOI, but there are still the might buffs available for the blue team in this game, which will help them up with that all the same. There is something important to note here, by the way. I actually just noticed this. I was wondering if it's going to be the Malignance build, and we said, oh, there's no true tank. What is this? What is that? That looks like a Iceport Gauntlet to me, as I have seen a little bit of that. It's not going to be the Malignance this time. Myrwn, in fact, goes back and buys that right now, and he will be a little bit harder to remove as Karmine Corp start up that Dragon. They were contesting those Grubs. A little bit of a late setup to this. Don't have the Ren stacks in there just yet.
Don't. They're going to start stacking them in now, though. Keep going on forwards. Yike's there as well. I don't think Movistar KOI will be able to contest that. So 2 Grubs and a Dragon is Kai'Si's haul from that set of objectives.
Always a little bit worried when you're starting to retreat. Yike has that flash, and of course that early spike of that Eclipse, as we pointed out earlier, a lot of damage. Can sometimes catch you by surprise how quickly Lee Sin can get a big pick off. We don't see as much of him in the pro game right now, but this is one of the better things about Fearless. When you do lose stuff, like, obviously in this case, the Shin's outbound and stuff like that, but once you lose some of your first string junglers, Lee Sin can start coming in and making a mess of things.
Iceborne Gauntlet completed from Myrwn, going towards that build today on the Karma. Very obnoxious, very tanky. Can be very, very heavy on the sustain as well, because you get so much healing from your W.
Very dangerous.
I knew you were going to go towards that. I'm not talking pod racing with you right now. We're in a playoffs game, Alex.
There we are. Slow down. It has slowed down as much as we're juggling that has been fast. But
can we call this the Buntaroof El Koi Classicer?
That is
that
is such a reach.
I know, I tried.
That is incredible.
I had to think about it, all right? I couldn't immediately come up with a pod racing pun. I'm sorry, I failed you.
Yeah, we'll work on that. That'll be your notes from this game. As, it's a bit of a grouping up down here. Elyoya and Alvaro attached at the hip, as they do tend to be from Movistar KOI. As soon as you can get this support from Movistar KOI out onto the map, it does tend to go straight towards Alvaro to see if Elyoya rather, to see if they can link up and make any plays. Similar to the first game, has become a bit slower. Not always sure who that favors in this case. Obviously, it's not the best for the Kalista, who wants to accelerate things. Typically not always the best for Lee Sin as well. Thank you for those plate golds as well. The crockery shop has been broken just a tiny bit this game. 2-1 on top lane, 1-3 on the bot side. Blue buff stealing away. Once again, no fight. It's been very trepidatious.
That's a very good word for it. Trepidatious. Trepidatious is a great word. I approve of that one. Lit student at me is happy with that. I have to think of another word that's similar, and I'll save it for later. There we go. But still, you're right. There's been a certain reserve in this game, similar to the last game, but in goes Elyoya, fighting over the Gromp. Not quite sure who picked that one up, actually.
I believe that was Yoya, but I was casting my eyes actually to a different part. As this tower is now alone. 4 Grubs, as we said, and the demolish on the Rakan you highlighted earlier will help take this one down a little bit lower. Yike is not going to be able to clear out the wave, and that will be first turn of the game over to Movistar KOI, and they'll pick up one of the 3 feats of strength.
Still got Feat of Martial Mastery and the objectives to claim. One more, of course, claims the full feat of strength for the side of Movistar KOI, but Alvaro debating phase checking. These tri-brushes have been a bit of a deadly spot for this ball support over the course of this series. Doesn't get caught out, does throw down a control ward, finds 2 people and swiftly loses the ward.
Okay, so the game is slowing down, that's why we're talking about various other things not related to exactly what's happening on the screen. A huge factor in this coming forwards will, of course, be these little things up here, the dragons. So if this game goes slower and Karmine Corp can play around the Dragon setup, that is very, very big for them. Of course, they have the Kalista. It makes those objectives a little easier. So Karmine Corp, maybe they'll be waiting and just trying to... That's a really good chunk, actually. Nice, nasty. Wow, Jojo, got to be careful there. Going back to Jackspectra's win condition for Karmine Corp. Abuse Jojopyun. Probably could have warded that a little bit kinder, but that's exactly what they're doing there.
It's because in a lot of ways, Jojo is the newest member to this squad. He's still linking in with the team, finding his space to be in here. He's travelled over from Canada, playing on a team that isn't always about him in a way. A lot of the other teams have often been about empowering Jojo to be the star carry. Elyoya, Supa, been a little bit more of the core right now. Yeah. Big chunk though back as Jojo returns the favor, having teleported back to lane.
Herald has spawned, Jojo teleported out as you said, and he's now full HP, so that chunk earlier, just decorative really. Movistar KOI will get them onto this objective, and Karmine Corp once again choosing not to fight. I think they'd rather fight in the Dragon in 1 minute. If they don't fight that, then I think there's an issue. Because I don't really think you want to give Movistar KOI the ability to get to 2 items on the Xayah and the Azir. And the Karma as well is going to be really obnoxious later into the game, whilst also being a constant source of shields for those carries we just highlighted.
Whereas I think obviously playing for Soul Point makes a lot of sense with the 2 dragons already stacked, and when you've got that Calista as an additional ace in the hole. Canna phase checks are 2 scary members in Elyoya and Alvaro, but it will only lead to a bit of a chunk, nothing more. MKOI though head over towards the turret. We'll claim this one, all the while not that much is happening on the other side of the map, so it will just be a free turret to Movistar KOI.
I expected so much blood from this series. We get a Kalista locked in, there's a Lee Sin, and we have 3 kills.
Teams,
We have 3 kills in 17 minutes.
I feel robbed.
I feel a little bit robbed too. You know what? Eventually it'll explode. Trust, eventually explode. That'll definitely how it's.
If this doesn't happen now, it's going to be you we're blaming. I will blame you.
Yeah,
I'm stood next to you.
You know what? I'll take that one. I'll bear that heavy burden. So I'm Dragon spawning in 10 seconds. Our Karmine Corp looking to get towards that early soul point. Last game, really good at stacking those dragons too. If the game slows down, those dragons are your faithful win condition. Cloud Soul, Cloud Rift, especially when you're in a more squishy game. Still nice, and even just getting the Elder on the map helps itself too. However, Movistar KOI, they have controlled the bottom river first, and they do have the Karma coming into the fray, who can, even with the tank build, throw out a little bit of poke, especially at this timestamp.
Largely got first items complete. Myrwn though with a soul flare onto Yike, drops the jungler down to about half, and all the while Elyoya and Supa are starting up the Dragon. Karmine Corp still trying to find a way on in here. They just don't have the control though. It'll be very tricky to force it. Targamas flash for a handshake. Jojo dies! Flash after the Emperor's Survival, not keep him alive. And now Elyoya and the rest of MKOI forced to run away. Myrwn on the side looking for the soul flare. Gets it onto Vladi, but it doesn't lead to that much damage. There's enough shields around with the Siphon power. Onto the Dragon we go, and the Ren stack's just not on in. Fate's Call used, hostile takeover, and Alvaro running away with the quickness, but he's just not quick enough. Just about survives now. Elyoya into the backline, tries to get onto Vladi, who's fallen down into a bailout, gets more back to life as he flashes on in with a Hex Tech Ray renamed after his rework, and Myrwn has some spears pulled out of him. It's an awful acupuncture session, and Karmine Corp come alive in this game.
Karmine Corp clutch it out. Targamas taking away Jojo at the start of the fight, absolutely crucial, but playing around the bailout, no less so after that point. Fantastic flash handshake, cancels the shifting sands out from the Azir, goes down, and that is a major part of this comp gone. We said it's very unforgiving mispositioning in this game, and that's exactly what happens here. It allows then Karmine Corp to go onto the Dragon. I thought that Myrwn was doing a great job on the back end. It looked pretty difficult once he started getting second mantra Qs coming down, Supa managing to redirect the fight too. What happens after this goes pretty crazy though. Vladi goes down to the bailout, but he's not tanky enough as Elyoya, so the reset comes through. KC clutch it out.
Again, it's the Eclipse build on the Lisa, and it was cool, right? Hits the clone, still takes it, flashes to get the cripple and the Dragon's Rage, and bailout keeps him alive, and you can see on the fans' faces how tense they are.
Worth noting, Elyoya, haven't seen his Lee Sin for a while. That was a pretty flashy play, even if it didn't quite end up working out. Haven't seen it since, I believe, MSI 2023 for him.
Really
It's been a long time, almost 2 years since we've seen that pick. It was a big pick earlier in his career. He's going to summon the Rift Herald into that mid lane now, which might help Movistar KOI lock down this area of the map. They really will be ruining that opportunity. Soul point to Karmine Corp for the rest of the game, giving up their gold lead. That is a big shift in the game now, which Karmine Corp are going to absolutely lap up.
From nearly 2k ahead to slight lead to Karmine Corp. It's nominal, don't get me wrong, not much of a gold lead, but they're at soul point. That is significantly more important.
What does nominal mean, Sam? You throw out words sometimes, and I feel like I need you to explain.
Yeah, so nominal.
Is that good? I'm going to assume that's good,
It means
Sam.
existing, but not really of all that much value.
Sure, cool. So it's there, but small. Great.
Yeah,
I explained it for you. Atkan spawned, mid lane turret is going to fall. I think with that HP it was likely to anyway, especially with the good siege and range of Movistar KOI. Karmine Corp now have to deal with the Sun Disk in their mid lane, replacing the debris of their own mid lane outer turret.
Again, those Sun Discs can be really obnoxious in mid lane because it just offers you fake pressure when mid lane control can be really valuable. Coming up to those objectives, having a sort of pseudo turret there for at least a few seconds can make a big deal.
Reminder, folks, that the winner of this series will go on to face G2, who won earlier today. The loser drops down into the lower bracket and will await their opponent a little bit later on into our playoffs formats. We have ourselves a grouping up of Karmine Corp. So Karmine Corp, just the names, the Ks. They get to me, Karmine Corp, grouping up on this top side. Atakan, the focus. You really want to control this tri-brush. It's the most important thing on this top side Atakan setup.
Atakan has been the doom of a few teams. Even just earlier today, we saw a bit of a fumble. Ghostplay just popped by Canna, looking to get onto a Myrwn. The Karma, not the easiest to lock down, will be thrown back with a thundering blow on the Jayce. Gets handshook as well, and Myrwn, that's just too far!
Thinks he's safe pushing up the lane, and he's not. The Ghostblade movement speed from Canna making the difference, allows him to punt him back. They take a turret, they take the Atakan, and once again, Karmine Corp more clean in the run-up to these objectives in the last couple we've seen. Now they have themselves a great situation. Again, last game, they had the Atakan into the Soul. This game, even with an early deficit, they find themselves in the same situation. They have themselves the free GAs on every single member, and they can fight around the Cloud Soul a little later. Is it the most powerful Soul? No, it's still a great buff for them, and with a set of drafts like this, which is going to favor the extra movement speed as well, it's going to really help people, of course, like particularly the Jayce if he's going into melee, and then the Wukong as well loves the Cloud Soul.
Deal,
loves it so much.
I don't even necessarily think that this Viktor, who's going to have a lot of people jumping for his head, is going to hate the ability to run away from a Lee Sin who's jumped at him when he presses the R button. There's a few people here who would get a lot of value out of it, I think, and a minute until that next fight comes up, and unfortunately for the side of Movistar KOI, they'll be doing it into all of the withdrawals. They will be up and available during that fight if I've timed it correctly. Always a possibility I haven't, but I'm fairly certain I have.
Interesting stat that Production's put up for us as well. We're talking about, I think you asked a question about win rates when these teams are behind at 14 minutes. Karmine Corp, I believe, we're behind at 14 minutes if they were at this point. They actually have a pretty good win rate when they are behind, 60%, 3-2 so far when they're behind at 14 minutes. Looks like they might just be pulling a rabbit out of the hat again this time. 40 seconds until the Dragon pushing in, putting some wards down, and making sure that Movistar KOI hopefully can't use as much of their range, but these Qs are starting to land from the Karma, and it does hurt.
Quick check in on some of the items as well, as Jojo finished that second down. Already had the Nash, and the Leandries should be about complete by now as well, and this Azir for Jojopyun could do a lot of work here, and if Karmine Corp end up in a position where this is it, where the Xayah can keep autoing, it's hard work still.
Yeah, of course, the last time we saw them, just kind of pops that Ghostblade, always a little bit scary when you hear that screech. What's he looking to do? Not that much right now.
On to Alvaro, who's got enough visual. Looks for the quickness into the backline, but Fate's Call denies the pick onto Targamas. Juice chunk onto Yike nonetheless. A berserk, courtesy of a hostile takeover. This business plan is pretty damn nasty from Karmine Corp. They pull away, they get the kill onto Supa, who had flash, had ult, could use neither.
Oh, Supa just can't quite get himself that fight. First fight for this Dragon. Last time, Jojo gets caught out. This time it's Supa. It's a great combo coming through, though, from Caliste and Targamas to finish it off. They will get themselves, once again, a very early Dragon Soul. The objective control from Karmine Corp has been great in both of these games. It's netting them a heck of a good advantage to play around a little later on. They have themselves the feats of strength, and they're starting to upgrade some boots as well. Things are looking good for Karmine Corp. What happens here? It's been a bit of a tug of war for this entry into River, especially when you're playing around longer ranges. This is really important. Fantastic Kalista ult here. Gets the knock-up straight into the hostile takeover, into the Cyclone. There is so little that Xayah can do.
And they still had all the withdrawals to work with as well. It was always going to be a hard fight for Movistar KOI, but that is sold. That is another kill, and that is a decisive advantage now for Karmine Corp, even if it isn't there entirely in the gold.
And you know, this was a decisively locked in Xayah Rakan, and I don't think the early game was a problem. They did pretty well. They escaped the early few levels, they kept it even, and we're saying, hey, this is good. We want to see these bot lanes be even with each other. No cleanse though on Supa, means he can't get out of that hostile takeover and break that CC. There's no Mikhail's either. I suppose there's not everything really needs to be Mikhail's or cleansed on this team, but Supa really needs to show up in one of these next fights to really justify this pick. It is already a very difficult composition to play. Supa needs to be doing a lot of damage, and taking damage from the lethality Jayce is not going to help.
Of course, Jojo just turned that damage back around to Vladi, but Vladi's got a teleport, so Vladi can join a lot faster than Supa can. Supa can do their best to heal up off the wave. It'll be Taste of Blood offering a little bit of healing back here, but it's not loads and loads.
These annoying inventors with their teleports and fancy summoner spells. Vladi and Canna both going to be able to get back out onto the map if that poke war is lost a little bit. Of course, the same can be said of Movistar KOI. Trying to starve up a Vision. That's a really good arcane storm.
Goes into the back line, doesn't really get all that much done with the quickness. It's just a quick trip to the grave. He's down. Supa goes up into the end of the Feather Storm. Just doesn't matter that much. Has to flash away. Does stay alive at least this time. Yike also up and about. Did not fall down despite the HP bar trades. You have our lost your support. Baron's up,
Oh.
and Karmine Corp head on over. I think they might start this one up. Are they just going to pick up the wards?
Yike is very low HP. He can tank up a little bit with the clone. Do Movistar KOI know this is happening, and can they do anything about it? They're teleporting in.
Myrwn's going to get a Defiance to the heal, but no counter flashes out on the end of that tether. So Myrwn shields themselves and backs away. Targamas still low. They know it's happening now, courtesy of Foresight alteration. Vladi on a flank will be spotted out. Elyoya over the back end of this can look for his deal, but it's still into a Kalista Ren. Goes and steals it! He steals the Baron! Again! Karmine Corp fail a Ren smite combo. It happened the other day. They pick up a kill afterwards. Movistar KOI get out like bandits!
Oh, a steal out of the top draw, which might just keep this game alive. Elyoya, not playing the lead since 2023, comes out with an absolutely clutch steal against the Kalista.
3 resonating strikes and you're out. I tell you, it is a wonderful steal from Elyoya. And the KOI fans come alive. Can you blame them? This game?
It just had to happen here. Just so it's like, oh, so clean around the objective plays. This has been so clean all series long from Karmine Corp. The Q lands onto the Baron. The follower comes through. How close does it get? Oh, it is so close. Goes down to 800. Missed time between the Rend and the Smite. You're right to call it out. There was an Atakan steal yesterday in their series from Karmine Corp versus Vitality, which they missed then. 2 series in 2 days where they make a similar mistake with the Kalista.
And again, I echo what Hysterics and Dagda said there, and is actually, maybe we have to hold that. Myrwn's been engaged on the cyclone, comes down, it's still a very tanky Karma. In goes Alvaro though with the quickness, and Yike's in danger, goes berserk, courtesy of the hostile takeover, stays alive for a second or two. Yike, burning, but alive. Supa into the air, got the feather pull onto Caliste, who still survives. The Arcane Storm claims that one. They go 3 down. They got the Baron, but Karmine Corp lose no members in that fight.
Oh yeah, Karmine Corp slap back, lose a Baron, take the kills. Who cares after that point? I don't think now that Movistar KOI are going to be able to use this objective. How did that setup happen in the first place? Left alone in that mid lane, unsupported by some other members away from the lane, and gosh, that Jayce is starting to really hurt. Karmine Corp spare their blushes of losing that objective just a little bit.
We haven't really talked about it all that much. We mentioned the Ghostblade once or twice, but this is a raw damage, Jayce. This is the lethality, the Ghostblade first, the Myrwn second. It definitely means those shock blasts hit real hard if you've not built up any armor.
Oh, that's got to be an absolute heartbreaker for Movistar KOI, because that was the turnaround. That was meant to be the point which could see you through to playing through this Baron buff to get yourself the map set up for the Elder that's spawning in a minute and a half. I mean, I suppose if you can steal a Baron, why not? Why not an Elder as well, right? Maybe we can ask a little bit more of Elyoya yet to give some of the Movistar KOI fans a bit of hope. Karmine Corp, though, as we were saying, before that Baron, were really in control of the map, and by and large, this series have been incredible around the objectives. See if they can do that again around the Elder Dragon. It will come down to a fight there. I don't think Karmine Corp can really force anything else beyond that. There are a couple of Baron buffs left in the last 20 seconds. It's going to be a negative power play. It's going to help them push out anyway. It's pretty hard to contest Karmine Corp as they walk up into lanes. They'll have to push somewhere where they're not.
Third item completed for Supa. Now got an Infinity Edge alongside that Essence Reaver FLICKR blades.
Yeah, and important stuff to note. No flashes on Supa and on Jojo was all very, very important that you do not have those summoners there. It means that Yike, who does have the flash, can potentially start to pick them off. Of course, there's no flash on Vladi and Caliste as well, but they have a Renata and they have the gold lead bluntly as well. It's much easier for them to play out these fights. Movistar KOI, if they want this to go to 3 games, are going to have to outplay a difficult scenario. Yike!
Oh, they've got it onto Jojo! He can't hit the arm guard. He's taken out Supa, got to hit him. Massive 3-man knockup. The Berserk, the hostile takeover, lives up to its namesake. An Arcane Storm. It's a Category 5 disaster. Karmine Corp wipe Movistar KOI off the rift. They're going to 2-0 the series.
Inclement weather comes in from the mid laner of Karmine Corp, and Movistar KOI cannot outplay the late game.
That Baron still gave you a moment of hope. They had control over the river. It felt like their time, and an engage come through with Movistar KOI. Blink and you miss them. Their health bars are all gone. The game is gone. It's just a weekend of 2-0s, and Karmine Corp reap the rewards. They are going on to the upper bracket.
Besides a Baron steal, it really felt like it was all blue here today in El Clasico, as apparently they call it. What a clean series around objectives from Karmine Corp. Really good reserve play, showing that it's not just about getting the early game bot lane lead and then just steamrolling from there. As we saw yesterday, it got a little bit difficult when they didn't have that in Game 2 as cleanly. Really good play around those objectives.
I think on the other side for Movistar KOI, they're going to be frustrated. They had some moments in that game, but it wasn't a series that seemed to go their way. Struggled in Game 1 to find anything. In Game 2, the moments they had, felt like Casey started to get some answers. But for your player of the series, courtesy of Kier, your options are Vladi, Caliste, and Targamas, and all three, I think, worthy contenders.
Oh, who do you choose that? For me, it's Targamas, actually. I think Targamas came away with the play of the game, play of the series yesterday. Fantastic Renata game here today. Fantastic Poppy as well, the battle Poppy in Game 1. That was absolutely terrifying, especially when the Talia allowed you to build your own wall stun combo into the late game. Incredible how he has grown from a back and forth last year. He's really out here to prove the haters wrong.
And this team, who I think might be looking to fight for finals, maybe up against G2, how exciting that's going to be, will be amazing. Just waiting for the interview, but it gives us a moment to break stuff down here a little bit as well, because again, this roster came in, how good were they going to be? And they've turned out and they've gone, well, actually, potentially the best in the LEC so far as we know. We've got people like Fnatic, who lost earlier today. We've got people like G2, who stumbled earlier on in the split. We have people like Movistar KOI, and they just handled them 2-0. How far can this roster go?
Hey, I mean, obviously, we now have a matchup between G2 and Karmine Corp in that upper bracket, and given the way that the objectives haven't always been too clean from G2, and Karmine Corp looking like that is one of the better areas of their game, I don't know who I'd pick to win. I know it's always a little bit sacrilege in the LEC to say, oh, betting against G2 in a best of.
Until I see them lose.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get to it. That's a conversation for a future week. But seriously, the fact that the individual players on Karmine Corp are on such good form right now. I think Canna had another good series as well. I think that Vladi on that Viktor was absolutely insane. That Chaos Storm at the end gave us a lot of fireworks to talk about. There is no weak player currently on Karmine Corp. They're on an incredible form.
They really, really are. And it does make it exciting because I think for a lot of years now in the LEC, it's felt like it's G2 and everyone else trying to play in their league. This time, Karmine Corp might be one of those teams who can really, really contend. And speaking of which, Laure is standing by with Targamas to break down that series.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm Laure, standing by with Targamas in the Myrwn Bonvoy post-game check-in. They've been like this all weekend. I was at home, but I was listening to them, and
yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I feel like it's an echoed sentiment from experts from the community, from other players, from your fans. You're trending right now, Targamas, and I do feel like it's completely deserved. Amazing year from you so far. I know you've been very vocal about the struggles you had last year, but the amazing performance you've been having this year. Tell me about you went from night and day performances.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. Like, I just feel good right now. Like, I feel like playing well in scrims. I'm just having a good time with my team, you know, like I've said before here. And yeah, it just shows in my gameplay, I guess.
It seems easy when you say it like this, but I'm just wondering, is there any process for you to keep on trusting yourself when everyone is doubting you, when maybe you're doubting yourself? How do you manage to come back and shine the way you've been shining so far?
I mean, I think I never really lost confidence in myself. Like, I've always knew that I had it in me, you know, that deep down I'm a good player. It just maybe sometimes I don't play good, but I guess it happens to every player. But yeah, I think support role is really a role where you shine or you don't shine. If your team is like not winning, then you will be an Inter, and if your team is winning, then you can try more stuff, like you can be more free to do mistakes because you're still winning, you still like your carries are in a good position, so you're free to try for more engage without looking like an Inter. So yeah, I think that's what's happening right now.
So let's talk about you guys winning, because I think it's an understatement to say that K Corp right now is a contender for the title. Do you feel like a top team though?
I think we felt
Merci les gars. Well. All right. We're going to let your voice rest for a bit. I want to hear what he has to say. Thank you so much, guys.
I think we've been feeling like a top team since the beginning. Like already when we started boot camping, like the scrims were going good. Like the main teams you're always looking at are Fnatic and G2, and if the scrims are going like good or decent against them, then you feel like you can actually contest, right? Of course, on stage it's always different because you're like the new team, the new guys, and then they are the old guys, the teams that have been winning in the past. So we kind of need to break that, and I mean, I think we have like a lot of confidence, and I'm really excited to play best of 5 next week.
Well, if I may bring a bit of nuance here. Before coming on stage, I ran into Rhea, your head coach, and I was congratulating him about your 2-0 today, and he was like, do you know what he's referencing here when he didn't seem quite convinced maybe about the second game?
I mean, I think the second game was kind of weird. Like, I feel like we were shaking a lot, like, maybe we felt like we were weaker than what we actually were. And I kept saying, no, guys, with Kalista, he's mega strong, we need to fight. But we felt like in the game we had to give a lot of stuff. So we for sure have to like re-talk about that because for sure that was not good. And we let them have too much space. So I think that's why he's not that happy. But we got the win. So.
All right. You guys got the win in the end. And you got the Kia player of the series today. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You told me about the fact that you never lost confidence. You always believed in yourself. But I want to challenge this. What do you think you're missing to become the best support in the league and a better player than what you are right now?
I mean, I think two things. Probably like some consistency because it's true that you can't be like the greatest support if you're hinting half of the games, right? So I can give that to my biggest haters, and the trophies, of course.
And the trophy, of course. One step away from this trophy, actually, you're going to face off against G2 next week. You won with G2 in the past. It's a rite of passage. You have to be G2 to access the title. Tell me how you think this series is going to go and what we could expect. KC versus G2, a banger series ahead, of course.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a banger, like the first best of 5 as well. If I'm not mistaken, they've been cooking some pretty crazy stuff this week. So I guess they're going to cook even more for next week. So I think it's going to be fun because we're going to have some stuff prepared on our own as well. And I mean, for sure we need to, if we want to get the title, we need to be G2, right? There's no other way. And I'm really looking forward for it.
And I really want to see what the KC French cuisine is going to be about next week. Targamas, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much for the interview. That's all for us here on the stage. Let's toss over to PGL with Giniro, Odo, Kameto, and Niski. À vous, messieurs.